Let's come closer to home. Former New South Wales Premier Bob Carr wrote to me last week about an old school friend. Mr. Carr described him as, quote, a Vietnam veteran who suffers post-traumatic stress syndrome. And Mr. Carr said of his friend that running on the sand in the morning, having a surf and being out in the sun had been prescribed by a psychiatrist as an alternative to antidepressants. Yeah. The Vietnam veteran friend had found these activities, running on the sand, diving into the surf, very effective. But Mr. Carr's friend is not alone. I had a very, very prominent public figure ring me on Sunday night, distressed. He has had significant problems. He was quite distressed because part of the therapy recommended by his medical team is that he surf, dive into the water, walk on the beach. In fact, he went to great lengths to buy a house so that this could happen. These activities are now banned by New South Wales police powers. They're banned in Victoria, they're banned in Queensland. And people are fined exorbitant amounts for not having a valid reason for not being out of their home. Now, Premier Carr didn't win elections in 1995, gained a big swing of 7% in 1999, was re-elected almost as easily in 2003, despite most federal New South Wales seats being held by the coalition. He didn't do that by not understanding the public mood. And to use the pub talk, Mr. Carr is arguing that some of this stuff is madness. Surely we can practice social separation and still go for a swim and walk on the beach. Mr. Carr joins us via Skype. Mr. Carr, thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Alan.
Your Vietnam veteran friend is a metaphor of this issue, isn't he? Suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yeah, very much so. We've got the finest beaches in the world. He's lucky to live at Matraville and be able to go down there and do a run, plunge into the surf. And as a result of that, he doesn't have to take antidepressants. So it's a perfect mental health fix. Our beaches are a glorious health resource, mental and physical. And right now, in this part of Sydney, you've got barriers that make it impossible, even for an individual, to go down at 6 a.m, walk across the sand and plunge in that matchless surf. And I reckon we could be doing things a whole lot more smarter than that.
Bob Carr, what is being achieved by banning these other than alienating the public whose support you need?
Well, that's a valid point, because on the weekend I was informed that at two beaches, Gordons Bay and at Bronte, people, as soon as the police were out of sight, were entering the water. And in one case at Bronte, ignoring the requests by police and council rangers to get out of the surf. Elsewhere at Gordons Bay, they were walking around the roped-off area, the little patch of sand, and entering less safely from the rocks. Now, there is a danger that in wonderful weather, people are going to be scratching their heads and saying, this regulation doesn't make sense. We've stayed in our houses, we're going mad being locked up. We want to facilitate. And they're aware that in the northern beaches of Sydney, it is possible to hit the water, and some of them might be aware that in other states you haven't got this madness. Former Premier of Western Australia told me, he said there's no restriction in Western Australia, the beaches are open, and I think that's the position in Queensland.
Absolutely. But you're Richo.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
Oh, sorry, I couldn't quite. Look, I'm bemused. We have very, very large beaches. Bondi can fit tens of thousands lying there and soaking up the sun, building sandcastles of their kids, doing all of that. There is enough room to allow people in to have a swim. Yes, police can check the numbers so there aren't too many, but we're going way over the top, trying to suggest basically you're a lawbreaker if you have a swim at Bondi. I just find that so far over the top, it's not funny.
Yeah. And if I could just, Bob Carr, they keep on saying we listen to the experts. Well, we're only listening to some. I mean, there is Professor Peter Collignon from Canberra, who is an expert, a virologist, infectious diseases expert, and he simply says, you're safer outside than inside. I don't see how anyone's going to get the virus if they keep 2 metres away from someone. Well, does he not count? I mean, most surfers surf on their own. They grab their board, they go to the water, they get out of the water, towel off and go home.
Yeah, and Alan, even if you don't accept the view of those impressive experts you've just quoted, take the more alarmist view, then it is possible, with all the police and the council rangers we've had patrolling the beaches, to have them on the sand, to get out of their boots and their socks and to walk up and down the sand and caution or even ticket people who are ignoring the reasonable cautionary rules about social distancing. I've spoken to the local government people who are maintaining this, and I think there's some movement. I think they can see that this is simply unsustainable. And yes, you are right when you imply that if it's silly regulation, people are going to be tempted to defy it, and then they might ignore more reasonable cautionary rules, regulations, and statutes.
Just before we go to, we should let you clarify your position, because former Premier Carr has been emphatic that social distancing must occur, that we've got to do all the right things, but he's simply saying this business is over the top. Do I sum you up accurately there?
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. And I am in favour of the police, instead of moving up and down the promenades outside the barriers, being every bit as present as they are on these beaches, being down on the sand, just sending a message that people have got to observe the social distancing requirements. And let's see we go from there. I mean, if people are foolish, and if backpackers who I think of the fear that local government people have got, crowd into the beach and behave irresponsibly, then you've got to revisit it. But for goodness sake, let locals maintain their physical and mental health by plunging into the surf, especially on weather like this, which is cloudless and warm.
Good on you. Good on you. Good on you.